Okay, I want you to picture something. It's a classic Los Angeles scenario. You've just signed the lease on a new place in Silver Lake, or maybe you finally closed on that condo down in Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
You're standing there in the empty living room holding the keys the realtor gave you.
It should be a great moment, a moment of triumph.
It should be. But then you start doing the math. And I don't mean the mortgage math. I mean the key math. You look at this little piece of metal and you just think, who else has one of these?
Right.
The previous owner gave you 2. But did they have a dog walker? A cleaning service?
The contractor who did the drywall 3 years ago? The ex who swore he lost his coffee?
Exactly. And suddenly your new sanctuary, it feels more like a public bus station. You have zero idea who has a key. So the panic sets in.
I've seen it 100 times.
And if you're like me, your first instinct is to run to Home Depot, buy, I don't know, $500 worth of brand new handle sets, and then spend your whole Saturday trying to install a deadbolt without stripping the screws.
Which is the nuclear option. It works, but it's expensive, time-consuming, and honestly, a lot of the time, it's totally unnecessary.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We've pulled together a stack of research, everything from technical locksmith manuals from MIT to industry trend reports for 2025, and some honestly terrifying undercover investigations into scams.
All to answer one basic question.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to your home security, should you rekey or should you replace?
It sounds like a really boring technicality, but the difference between those two words can save you hundreds of dollars and, a lot of the time, give you even better security.
For sure.
So today we're going to get into the physics of how a lock actually works, because it is way cooler than I thought. We're going to expose the drill and bill scams that are just plaguing LA right now and figure out if you really need that fancy new smart lock.
But before we crack open the cylinder, we have to mention the partners who made this deep dive possible. If you are in Los Angeles and you're staring at your door right now wondering who has access, you need to call West Point Locksmith.
These guys are the real deal. In an industry that is, frankly, full of sketchiness, which we will definitely get to, West Point has a stellar reputation. We're talking 5-star reviews, serving all of LA.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're locked out at 2 a.m., need a car key replaced, or you need to secure that new home we were just talking about, they are fast, reliable, and professional.
Their number is 310-295-4040. That's 310-295-4040. Seriously, save that number now, because as you're about to learn, trying to find a good locksmith during an emergency without vetting them first is a very dangerous game.
Okay, so let's dive in. Rekey versus replace. To the average person, and I'm including myself in this until I read the notes, changing the locks just means taking the old hardware off the door and throwing it in the trash.
Yeah, that's a massive misconception. Let's define the terms. Replacing is exactly what you just described. You unscrew the deadbolt, the knob, the latch, the whole assembly.
The whole thing.
The whole thing comes off, you install a brand new unit. You're paying for all of it, the brass, the steel, the packaging, the marketing, all of it.
Okay, so then what is rekeying?
Rekeying is more like surgery. You keep the patient, the lock body, right there on the door. A locksmith just removes the internal cylinder, what we call the plug, and changes the coating inside it.
So the old key no longer works.
Exactly.
I want to pause on that word coding, because the MIT Guide to Lockpicking, which was a wild read, by the way, describes locks almost like little analog computers. They're binary, either open or closed.
That's a perfect analogy. Inside that cylinder, you have a series of chambers, usually 5 or 6 of them. And inside each chamber are 2 little pins stacked vertically, pushed down by a tiny spring.
Okay, you've got the driver pin and the key pin.
Correct. The key pin is on the bottom. It's the one that actually touches your key. The driver pin sits right on top of it. Now, normally, those top driver pins are pushed down halfway, blocking the plug from turning. It's a physical obstruction.
So when I slide my key in, I'm not just pushing metal around, I'm actually lifting those pins.
You're inputting data. The ridges and valleys on your key, the bitting, lift those pins to very specific heights. And the goal is to lift the tiny gap between the key pin and the driver pin so that it aligns perfectly with the edge of the plug.
We call that the shear line.
That's the shear line. And when all 5 or 6 of those little stacks align right at that shear line,
The obstruction is gone, the plug can rotate.
and the door opens.
So when a locksmith rekeys a lock, what are they physically doing to those pins?
It's pretty simple, actually. They take the cylinder out, they dump out the old bottom pins, the key pins, and they just replace them with new ones of different lengths. So let's say the first pin was a size 4. They'll swap it for maybe a size 6.
And now the old key doesn't work.
Right. If you insert your old key, it's going to lift that new pin way too high or maybe not high enough.
It misses the shear line.
It completely misses the shear line. The driver pin is still blocking the rotation. The lock is effectively frozen to the old key, but for the new key, which is cut to match those new pins, it opens smoothly.
So you've basically changed the password without having to throw away the computer.
Precisely. And the cost difference is huge. You're paying for maybe 30 minutes of labor and like $2 worth of tiny brass pins versus maybe hundreds for new high-end hardware.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here. If I just moved into a new house and I have no idea about the history of the locks, isn't new hardware just safer? I mean, isn't a brand new lock just better than a 10-year-old lock that's been rekeyed?
Not necessarily. In fact, a lot of times it's the opposite. And this brings us to what I call the decision matrix.
I love a good matrix. Let's break it down. So, scenario A, you buy a house. The locks are a good brand, like Schlage or Baldwin. They turn smoothly, they look fine.
In that case, you 100%. If the mechanical action is smooth, there is absolutely no security benefit to replacing the metal casing. The security comes from the pins and that shear line.
So by rekeying, you instantly invalidate every single copy of the old key.
Every single one that exists in the universe. The realtor's key, the contractor's key, the dog walker's key. They're all just useless pieces of metal.
They're dead.
Instantly dead. You have achieved a complete security reset for a fraction of the price.
Okay, scenario B. I walk up to the door. The lock is loose. It rattles. Maybe it feels kind of crunchy when I turn the key. Or maybe it's just ugly, you know, that tarnished brass from 1990 that's peeling off.
Crunchy is a bad sign. That could mean the springs are failing or the cylinder walls are worn out. Rekeying doesn't fix wear and tear, it just changes the combination.
So rekeying a piece of junk just gives you a rekeyed piece of junk.
You got it. If the lock is mechanically failing, or if it's a cheap builder-grade lock, you know, the generic ones from the dollar bin you replace, and some of those cheap locks, they aren't even designed to be serviced. A locksmith might say, look, I can't even rekey this, the cylinder is sealed.
So in that case, you're forced to upgrade. But not just for the sake of spending money.
Right. Replace if the hardware is failing, or, and this is a big one, if you want to upgrade your entire security tier.
Which is a perfect segue. Let's talk about 2025. Because looking at the industry reports, we are in the middle of a massive shift. The smart lock isn't a niche gadget anymore. It's becoming the standard.
It really is. The adoption rates are just skyrocketing. But for you, the listener, this complicates that rekey versus replace decision. Because if you want to go keyless, obviously you have to replace.
But the tech has gotten better, right?
Yeah.
I remember just a few years ago, the big complaint was battery life. Your lock would just die in 2 months because it was trying to stay connected to your Wi-Fi all day.
And that's the big shift for 2025. We're moving away from direct Wi-Fi and toward newer protocols like Matter and Thread.
Okay, I keep seeing Matter on the boxes at Best Buy. What does that actually mean for me as a homeowner?
But think of Thread as a low-power mesh network. Instead of your lock shouting at your Wi-Fi router across the house, which just drains the battery, it sort of whispers to your smart plug, which then whispers to your Apple TV or your Google Nest.
It's much more efficient.
Way more efficient. If you are buying a smart lock this year, you really want one that supports Matter over Thread.
Okay, so that's the connection. What about the hardware itself? I mean, a smart lock is still a lock. It still has a bolt.
And that's a crucial point. You need to look at the ANSI grading, the American National Standards Institute.
Sounds official.
It is. Grade 3 is your basic residential standard. It's okay, but you can kick it in with enough force. Grade 1 is commercial heavy duty. It's built like a tank.
And the sources pointed to a few clear winners here. The Schlage Encode series seems to be the heavyweight champion.
Oh, yeah. The Schlage Encode and Connect models are beasts. They are grade 1 rated, they're loud, they're heavy, and they just work. They're expensive, sure, but you're paying for real physical security plus the brains.
And for the Apple people, which I know is a huge chunk of our listeners, there's the Aquara U100 or the newer Schlage models that support Apple HomeKey.
HomeKey is a total game changer for convenience. You literally just tap your Apple Watch to the deadbolt like you're paying for a coffee. No code to remember, no app to open. It's seamless.
But here's my hesitation with smart locks. With a mechanical lock, the failure mode is, what? The key breaks, a spring snaps after 30 years. With a smart lock, aren't I just introducing a million new ways to get locked out?
That's the trade-off.
Firmware updates, dead batteries, getting your Wi-Fi hacked.
You are absolutely trading mechanical reliability for access convenience. A good mechanical lock will work for 50 years with a little graphite spray. A smart lock is a computer on your door. It needs updates. It needs batteries.
So if you're the kind of person who ignores the update now pop-up on your laptop for 6 months, maybe you should stick to a key.
Or, at the very least, get a smart lock that has a physical keyway as a backup. Never, ever buy a lock that is only electronic. If that battery dies and there's no keyhole, you are drilling that lock off your door, period.
Which brings us right back to our sponsor. Whether you want to install a Grade 1 Schlage encode or you just want to rekey the vintage locks on your bungalow, you need someone who actually knows what they're doing.
That's West Point Locksmith, 310-295-4040. They stay up to date on all the smart lock tech, but they also have those crucial old-school mechanical skills. They can look at your door frame, which is just as important as the lock, and tell you if that fancy new lock is even going to fit properly.
And they're available 24/7. So if your smart lock decides to do a firmware update at 3 a.m. and bricks itself, you have a backup plan. That's 310-295-4040.
Okay, now we need to pivot to the dark side, because we can't talk about locksmiths in Los Angeles without talking about the scams.
This part of the research made my blood boil. We looked at these undercover investigations, stings, basically, where news crews would set up a perfectly good lock, call a locksmith from a Google ad, and just film what happened.
It's the drill and bill. It is a predatory business model, and it's designed specifically to exploit people who are in a crisis.
Walk us through the anatomy of this scam. How does it start?
It always starts with the lowball quote. You're locked out, you're stressed, you search Locksmith LA. You see an ad that says $15 service call, 15-minute response time.
Which sounds way too good to be true.
Because it is. I mean, think about the economics. In LA traffic, with these gas prices, no legitimate professional can drive a fully equipped van to your house for $15. It's just a lure.
So you call them, they send the guy out.
Usually in an unmarked car. He walks up to your door. You have a standard quickset or Schlage lock, something any pro can pick in like 60 seconds. He takes one look at it, shakes his head, and says, "Oh, wow, this is a high security lock. This is commercial grade. I can't pick this."
And that's the lie.
That is the big lie. He says the only way in is to drill it.
And as soon as that drill touches the metal,
Your lock is destroyed, and now you are a captive audience. He says, "Well, I have to install a replacement." Then he charges you $200 for a cheap $20 lock plus a drilling fee plus the emergency labor. That $15 quote just became a $450 bill.
that is infuriating. So how does a listener protect themselves? If I'm locked out, how do I know if the guy standing on my porch is a scammer?
Two things. First, drilling is a last resort. Always. If a locksmith reaches for the drill within the first minute, without even trying to pick it or use other tools, stop them. Tell them to leave.
And there's a legal protection here in California too, right?
Yes. This is critical. California is one of the states that requires locksmiths to be licensed by the Bureau of Security and Investigative Services, or BSIS.
They have to carry a card.
They are legally required to carry a pocket ID card. You have to ask to see it. Just say, "Can I please see your locksmith license?" A scammer will get defensive, say it's in the truck or that they don't need one. A pro, like the team at West Point, will show you immediately, no problem.
That is the actionable tip of the day. Ask to see the ID.
And honestly, the best protection is to have a number saved before you ever have an emergency. That's why we mentioned West Point. If you already know who you're calling, you don't have to roll the dice with those sketchy Google ads.
Okay, I want to hit a couple of deep cuts from the research before we wrap. Things that really surprised me. One was the hardware store myth.
Go on.
Well, I've always thought about this. Why pay a locksmith for a service call? Why can't I just unscrew my own lock, drive it down to the local hardware store, and have the guy in the orange vest rekey it for like $5?
You can, theoretically, but you're taking two big risks. First, you just left your house unlocked. You literally have a hole in your front door while you're driving around town.
Which, in LA, is a very bold strategy.
It's a bold move. But the second risk is pin quality and tolerances. Professional locksmiths use high-precision pinning kits with tolerances of like 0.0003 inches. The kits at big box stores are often, let's just say, less precise.
So you get home, reinstall the lock, and the key feels sticky or weird.
Or it works for a week and then it jams. Or even worse, the tolerance is so loose that other keys might be able to jiggle it open. You're saving $50 on a service call, but you're compromising the basic reliability of the lock.
Okay, another deep cut. Master keying. This sounds cool, like you have a skeleton key, But the sources say it's actually a security risk.
It's a huge risk, especially for condo owners. It's often called mason keying. In apartment buildings, landlords want a master key that can open every single unit. To do that, they add extra little wafers, or pins, inside your lock cylinder.
So instead of just one gap for the shear line, there are two or three.
Exactly. Every time you add a master wafer, you create another potential shear line. It's another valid solution to the puzzle. And mathematically, this makes the lock much, much easier to pick.
And it can create ghost keys.
Right. If there are enough master wafers in a lock, a random key, maybe a neighbor's or an old tenant's, might accidentally open your door because it just happens to hit one of those extra shear lines.
So if I buy a condo that used to be a rental,
It might still be full of those master wafers. When you call West Point to rekey, you have to specifically ask them, please remove any master pins. Strip it back down to a single combination for your key only.
that is a real pro tip. Clear the master pins.
It makes your lock significantly harder to pick, and it ensures that only your key will ever work.
We've covered a ton of ground here.
Yeah.
From the physics of the shear line to the economics of the drill scam. So let's bring it all home. What is the final verdict for the homeowner listening right now?
The verdict is this. Don't default to a place. If you have good quality hardware that works smoothly, rekey it. It's the smartest financial move. You're usually in that $70 to $160 range, and it creates that crucial security reset.
And if it's broken or you want to upgrade.
If your locks are broken, ugly, or you want to jump into the future with smart tech, then you replace. But look for that ANSI Grade 1 rating and make sure you understand the maintenance involved.
And always verify that California license.
Always. Don't let anyone take a drill to your front door unless they can prove they're a legitimate professional.
And if you want to skip all that stress, just call the experts we trust.
West Point Locksmith. Their number is 310-295-4040. They're 247. They serve all of Los Angeles, and they know the difference between a pin and a wafer. They're the ones you want in your contacts list before you need them.
I want to leave our listener with one final kind of provocative thought from our research. We spend so much time obsessing over the lock itself.
Mm-hmm.
Is it unpickable? Is it smart? Does it have a fingerprint scanner? But the experts all say we might be looking at the wrong thing.
It's the tunnel vision problem. You can go out and install a $600 military-grade biometric smart lock on your front door. But if that door is a hollow core piece of wood that I can kick through in 1 second, or if you have a beautiful glass window right next to the thumb turn on the deadbolt,
Then the lock is just expensive jewelry.
Exactly. Security is a chain, and the lock is just one link. You have to look at the door frame, the strike plate screws. Are they long enough to actually go into the studs of your house?
Yeah.
The lighting, the glass. Don't build a vault door on a cardboard house.
That is something to think about tonight. Check your frames, check your screws, and if you need help with that lock, you know who to call. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Stay safe, everyone.